Hi all. Hope you are doing fine and well. So today we are going to discuss the poem Breakfast by Jaques Prevert. So I think you all have studied the poem by now. So what can you tell about the title of the poem? What is breakfast? Yes. So breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and that is the time we all are refreshed. Maybe after a sleep and all, we all are refreshed, and we all like to talk to each other, and with a smile we all greet each other. So breakfast is a time like we all are in very pleasant mood in most of the cases, unless we are in a busy routine. But again, like if you look at the title, what I have put it here in two colors. Break fast. So just breaking fast, breaking very quickly. So think on that also while you are studying the poem. So let's move on to the poem. I think it's a very easy poem, but it has a very deep meaning. Now, to which category this poem belongs in your syllabus? It comes under the category of conflict. Now, what are the other poems in your syllabus that comes under conflict? Voice kind, farewell to barn and stack and tree, then terrorist is watching. Why breakfast is also in the same category? Now, of course, it is obvious the conflict in voice kind. It's about a war. Terrorist is watching. Of course, it is about an explosion. Then farewell to barn and stack and tree. It is about committing a murder, a homicide incident. So, what is breakfast then? What sort of conflict is that? Now, breakfast denotes some sort of a micro level conflict, or else you can call it a domestic conflict, a conflict between the husband and the wife. Right? So, keep all this point in your mind and we will move on to the poem. Now, first about Jaques Prevert, now this poem is originally written in French language. A French poet, a screenwriter, his poems became and remained popular in the French-speaking world, particularly in school. So, he was born in 4th February and he died in 11th April 1977. So, that is about him. And how many years old? Okay, so you can calculate it. Right, so let's move on to the poem. Now, about the poem, this poem by Jaques Prevert was written in 1946, 1 year after the end of World War II. You know that, Second World War, right? So, which caused a massacre for the entire world. So, this is translated by Jaques Prevert, and it has multiple number of translations. So, which is in your syllabus is by him. So, it reflects the nihilistic tone of many people after the war. You know that like people suffered, like it's not like a civil war that we had. It's a world war. Yeah, like number of people died, number of civilians died. So how people reacted after that? Having suffered a humiliating invasion by Nazis, French citizens felt disillusioned and displayed after their liberation by United States in 1944 and at the end of the war in 1945. Now, what you see through this poem is like the man trying to neglect the woman. He's ignoring the woman because the conflict we see throughout this poem is not clear what sort of conflict they had. So if you look at the historical background of the poem, you can comment that now this is like some sort of this poem reflect the nihilistic tone, that means the emptiness of the humans, their feelings after the war. So you can comment like that as well. Okay. Now, breakfast or breakfast. He poured coffee into his cup. He put milk in his cup of coffee. He put sugar in his cup of coffee and milk. With his teaspoon, he stirred it. He drank the coffee and milk and he put down the cup without speaking to me. Now, you can see here, he. Now, this person is saying he. Now, normally in the breakfast table or your morning tea, who prepares your breakfast? Mostly in most of the houses, it is a female, right? Mostly involved in Asian context. So in other contexts, it is of course fine, but if it is husband and wife, wife tends to make the cup of tea, or the other offers to make, maybe the husband even offers to make a cup of tea. Now, while someone is just looking at you, if you are ignoring the person early in the morning, what might be the reason? Now, you all might have done this thing, right? When you're angry with somebody, maybe with your loved ones, with your family. So, when you're not in the proper mood with them, you quit talking to them. So, but is it difficult to avoid others? Yes, you might have overcome this thing. It's difficult to avoid when, like, somebody is looking at you. Maybe if you had a fight with your siblings and all, like, once they look at you, even you might burst into a laughter. But here, if they really had a fight, it's quite difficult. So you don't know what sort of conflict they had, what sort of inner conflict they had. Okay, so he poured coffee into his cup. You can see the possession. So the writer is constantly like reminding that his cup. Okay, and so you can say with his teaspoon. Okay, so like not with a teaspoon. So you don't have personal teaspoons here. No? So you can see that is why his teaspoon, he stirred it. He drank the coffee and milk. He put down the cup without speaking to me. Now, how much time will it take for you to make a cup of coffee and drink it? We'll say 30 minutes. It depends. But during the whole time, what we see is the person is not speaking to the other one. So we assume that the other one is the female based on the details that is given. So let's see, right? Then the second one, he lit a cigarette, he made rings with the smoke, he put ashes in the ashtray without speaking to me, without looking at me. Now the second thing he is doing is he is lighting up a cigarette and he is making rings with the smoke and putting ashes in the ashtray. What can you say about the word ring? What does that ring suggest? Yes? Ring suggests relationship. Maybe like, once a couple is married, they put ring to suggest it's a relationship, the never-ending love between the couple. So with smoke, he put the ashes in the ashtray. So with what is he making the rings? With smoke. So do they last forever? No. Okay, it vanishes. And he is putting even ashes on the ashtray, which shows that the deterioration of the relationship. So you can comment like that. It's just an analysis. So without speaking to me, without looking at me, even a simple look from this person might have consoled the other one. Okay, so from him. So from this man. So the narrator is worried because this person is not even giving a look. She is staring at him. Okay, she at least wants a look from him. Okay, right. So let's move on. Now, for that also it takes a time to puff a cigarette. Right? So during the whole time, he is not even looking at her. He is not even speaking to her. Okay? So what you can see is up to here how lack of communication leads up to breaking up of relationship. So when you have a problem, the problem should come out. Now, we don't see a fight here. We don't see an argument here. We see a couple, like one want to talk to the other one, but has no guts to do that. The other one is constantly ignoring her. So that leads to the breaking up of the relationship, or else what I told you, break fast. So lack of communication leads to a fast breaking up. Then what happened? He got up, he put his hat on his head, he put on his raincoat because it was raining, and he went out. Now when it is raining, what do you prefer to do? Yes? You prefer to stay inside, right? If it is raining heavily, unless it is so urgent to go out, you prefer to stay inside. Now this is the morning time. We don't know whether he's going out for work. But rain, like the outside atmosphere, is tempting him to stay inside. Because rain is a time where even unknown people talk to each other. Imagine that you are in a bus halt waiting for a bus, and if it is raining, even two strangers might start a conversation. So even during that time, even to talk about whether these two do not talk with each other. And he got up, he put his hat on his head, he put on his raincoat because it was raining, and he went out. So you can see, like, it isn't like the outside atmosphere is not tempting them, like this couple, to have some sort of a romantic relationship either. So he is going out, okay, which shows that why you are going out anyway. Like, if you can't tolerate the person, what you are doing is you are simply leaving the place. So that is what happened. Now this person can't stand this woman, he is leaving. Okay, even the rain, the outside atmosphere cannot stop him. So that is what happened here. Are you clear with that? Okay, let's move on. In the rain, without a word, without a look, and I put my head in my hands and wept. So now you see the climax of the poem where a woman burst into tears. So she could not take it anymore. Okay, so she was waiting until the man speak to him. So she is so depressed. So her tears outpoured at this moment. She could not bear it anymore and she burst into tears. So what you see throughout the poem is how the lack of communication leads to breaking up of relationships. Now, reflective of this disillusionment, the scene of the poem reveals an estranged husband and wife. They sit as one would with a stranger in a cafe in their breakfast table. They are more like strangers in the breakfast table. In a series of clipped sentences, all of which are described in past tense that often denote a definite beginning and end, the wife describes her husband's clipped, impersonal actions performed without any recognition of her. He is simply avoiding her. She describes in a sing-song fashion these mechanical motions of her husband who sits across from her without appearing to take notice of her. So she is constantly ignoring. This poem does not contain a direct conflict, rather it contains a situation that obviously comes after some form of conflict where the man who is eating his breakfast is choosing not to talk to the speaker of the poem. So I told you maybe they had fought last night, so they are not speaking to each other. We don't know. Right? So this is a domestic conflict, or as I told you earlier, a micro level conflict. We watch with mesmerized attentiveness the man at the breakfast time methodically pouring out a cup of coffee, drinking it, and then smoking a cigarette before leaving. Suddenly the angle is reversed to reveal for a moment his companion, who burst into tears. The psychological tension of their relationship is heart-rendingly visible only at the end. So that is about the poem. So apparently nothing could be simpler, and no expert knowledge of the wider world of the literature is needed for making sense of this scene. Anybody can understand what is there, so it's more like a internal conflict or like a conflict between husband and the wife. So closer analysis reveals, however, precisely calculated pattern of repetition that creates tension that are all the more unbearable because there is no punctuation, and so the reader is forced at every stage to make impossible decisions about the way fraught situations are to be structured. That means run-on lines are there. Everything is constantly narrated. At first glance, Prevert's poetry can appear to be naive, but his verbal dexterity reveals that he knew the meanings of the old adage that the truest artistry is concealed. So you can see the hidden artistic effect of this poem. I hope you understood this poem. So it is a micro level conflict, breakfast or breakfast. So I hope you understood this poem. If you have any questions, you can comment them below. I will be glad to answer them. And if you find this video useful, you can subscribe the channel and make sure that you comment your questions below. Thank you and have a nice day.